Hello again, everybody. Um, this is going to be both a channel update and a life update. Um, Yesterday, shortly after I woke up, um, if anyone is tuning in for the first time, I have what's called a psychogenic tremor in my right arm. What that means is for over a year, year and a half now, something like that, my right arm has not stopped shaking. And it's caused by my anxiety. So the shaking gets worse the more anxious I get and the more stressed out I get. I also have multiple diagnosed anxiety disorders, including panic disorder, PTSD, generalized anxiety disorder, and social anxiety disorder. And the panic disorder also has the qualifier of with agoraphobia. Um, so I have a lot of things wrong with me. Um, and because of just the nature of psychogenic tremors, the tremor itself, if like if I hold my arm down or something like that to prevent it from shaking, one of two things happens. One, I will actually strain my arm because my muscles want to shake, and so they will fight against me trying to hold it down. Or the tremor will move to another location in my body. Like my legs generally tend to be the other place where if I have my arm under control, my legs will start shaking. And then when I get really stressed out, like basically anytime I leave my room, the tremor gets bad to where it's not just affecting my arm. It'll affect my upper body. It'll affect my legs. It'll eventually affect my whole body. Um, well, yesterday, uh, for no real apparent reason, I started having um, really, really bad tremors on my entire body. And then they changed, um, is what I'm calling it, into what I classify as convulsions. Because tremors, this to me, this is a tremor. It's small. It makes it difficult to do anything with that hand, but it's not dangerous. I'm not hurting my muscles or anything like that, other than the fact that they're being used constantly. But I'm not like tearing muscles or anything. The convulsions I was having yesterday were dangerous. My head was whipping back and forth bad enough that I actually pulled muscles in my neck here and here. My jaw clenched so hard that I couldn't speak, and all the muscles that keep your jaw shut started eventually started hurting so bad that I was basically brought to tears. And again, my entire body was violently convulsing, um, with no real explanation. Like I got a notice that was a little bit anxiety producing, but it was nothing that I hadn't dealt with before. So I couldn't really understand what was going on. I was actively hurting myself, not intentionally, but I was again the convulsions were so violent that I was doing muscular damage, and eventually I was going to start doing impact damage if I impacted anything heavy or solid. Like if I hit my head on the corner of the chair or something like that, I was going to do serious damage to myself. So I realized that there was something seriously wrong, and I went to try and find a family member to take me to the emergency room. I was home alone. I was forced to call 911 and attempt to talk to the dispatcher, despite the fact that my jaw was basically permanently clenched. And because of the convulsions, I couldn't control my breathing. I couldn't control my my vocal cords or anything. So I had an extremely hard time communicating anything. And luckily enough for me, an ambulance was able to get to my house within about 10 to 15 minutes. I uh, I was relatively certain that I was having a seizure because one of the symptoms of diazepam withdrawal or Valium withdrawal is seizures, and I hadn't had any thus far because we'd been very careful about lowering my dosage slowly and monitoring it very closely. And so I figured that my dosage had gotten low enough that I was finally having the seizures that I'm supposed to be having. And seizures can cause permanent brain damage, as well as the other bad thing that can happen is strokes. So I was afraid I was having either a seizure or a stroke, and that I was going to have permanent brain damage, and I was absolutely terrified that I would either, you know, be seriously screwed up for the rest of my life or be dead very soon. So I'm terrified. The paramedics got there. I had to try communicating. Again, they keep asking me all these questions, and I had to get out as much relevant information as I could, despite the fact that I couldn't really speak. I could get one, maybe two words out at a time, and then the convulsing would be so bad that I couldn't speak. So I had to I would yell keywords at them, things like I'd yell serotonin syndrome to try and get them to understand that they can't give me any antidepressants to calm me down because those could kill me. And I had my pill bottle with me so I could show them what it was that I had taken, and I was able to yell diazepam withdrawal, which I was very impressed that I was able to get that out. And beyond that, I just kept trying to figure out what was going on, and I couldn't. And so anyway, they took me to the ER. Along the way, the paramedics said that it was impossible for me to be having a seizure because I was able to communicate with them, and if I was having a seizure, I'd be unconscious. Which I later found out is not true. There's like 4 or 5 different kinds of seizures, and only 2 of them result in you being unconscious. So there are actually 3 other types of seizures that you are conscious and cognitive for. So that was false information. When I got to the emergency room, by the time they got there, the other thing that had been happening was I was sweating like dangerous amounts of sweat. Like I was, let put it this way: they tried to put cardiac monitoring stuff on my chest, and they couldn't because I was sweating so much that nothing would stick to my skin. My skin was completely covered in sweat after about, like I said, 10 to 15 minutes, and they were constantly wiping me down with towels and stuff like that in the ER, and it didn't matter. I was just pouring sweat out. The paramedics got a reading of a heart rate of about 200 beats per minute, and decided that wasn't possible, and that it must be because I was shaking. So I don't actually know what my heart rate was when I was at the peak of this seizure-like moment that they're claiming was a panic attack, which, again, I have panic disorder. I have panic attacks on a daily basis. I've never had anything like this. But I've no idea what my vitals were during the peak of it. By the time I got to the emergency room, it was starting to get a little bit better, and I was able. They actually went and taped using like they basically strapped the little finger thing that they put on you to check your pulse and to check your blood oxygenation. They strapped it to my finger by like taping it down. And at that point, for like an hour or something like that, I had a heart rate of like 150, 160. It would fluctuate in there. And again, I was just pouring off buckets and buckets of sweat, to the point where they had to give me IV fluids, or else I was going to become dangerously dehydrated, like death kind of dehydrated. I was sweating so much. And then they had the issue of they had to find a way to get a needle into me when I couldn't stop shaking. And then they also had to, they had the issue of they had to find a way to secure the IV, the actual tube that goes in your arm. Generally what happens is they put this tape thing over it, and then they kind of tape it down so that they can, so it doesn't move. Well, I was shaking so violently and I was so covered in sweat that none of the tape was working. They couldn't get anything to stick, and so they eventually had to just wrap my arm in like a gauze type thing in order to do it, because there was no other way to get the IV in. And that was horrible because I have an incredible fear of needles, and they cause me to have panic attacks. Yeah, after them taking blood and urine and all this stuff, because they kept asking if I was on some sort of drugs, because they figured this must be a bad, reaction to drugs. I don't take drugs. I never have. It's not something that I enjoy. Then like, oh, well, you're must be drinking, and I'm like, I haven't had a drink in a year and a half now, at least. So no, it's just something is going wrong, and the only explanation I can come up with is I had a seizure from Valium withdrawal, which is an expected symptom of Valium withdrawal. The doctor in the emergency room kept telling me, you need to stop shaking. I'm like, no shit. And I said, I'm trying as hard as I can. She's like, well, you need to try harder because you have to stop. I'm like, I can't stop shaking. This is involuntary. She's like, yes, you can. You're just not trying hard enough. To which I almost hit her. Like, she said it so many times of, you have to stop shaking. You're not trying hard enough. And she kept saying it over and over and over again, like it was helping in some way. And finally, because I was polite as physically possible, I always am with doctors and nurses because they have a really tough job. And I finally just snapped, and I turned to her and I said, you are not helping. Through gritted teeth and muscle spasms and my head whipping back and forth and all this stuff. And after that, she left, which I was more than happy about. Because I would much rather deal with the nurses than that prick of a doctor. Yeah, it took hours to get to the point where I had stopped shaking enough to. I think I was in the ER for like 4 or 5 hours, and it took like at least 1 or 2 hours for the spasming to get down to a point where I was no longer like damaging my muscles and things like that from whipping whipping everything around so quickly. So yeah, they diagnosed it as a panic attack. They didn't do any like brain scans. They didn't do any cardiac measurements or anything like that. They just tested my blood and urine for drugs, and then said, well, you had a panic attack, avoid stressful situations, and then go home. So I have appointments to see my primary care physician and my psychiatrist. I actually already had an appointment to see her on Friday anyways, so I'll talk about this with her and see what she says. Yeah, overall it was a horrible, terrifying experience, made worse by the fact that I had a doctor that decided what was wrong with me before I came in, and before she had actually talked to me. She just made the decision of what was wrong with me. And I've had that happen before. The last time that happened, it was a psychiatrist when I was committed to a psych ward, and the drugs that he gave me should have killed me. And the only reason they didn't is that I didn't increase the dosage when I was supposed to, because of the negative effect they were having on me. And that's when I first developed, or I was first diagnosed with serotonin syndrome. And yeah, so yesterday was absolutely a nightmare. And then I come home to see an email from YouTube. And the email told me that they had changed the rules for being a YouTube partner. For those of you who don't know, I've been a YouTube partner for, I think, at least 3 years now. They've changed the rules for a YouTube partner. This is the second time they've changed the rules for being a YouTube partner within the past, like, year-ish. The first time, they're like, well, you have to have, 10,000 lifetime views on your channel, which I had surpassed years ago. I think I'm at 32,000 lifetime views. I just hit that a little while ago. So that was fine. Now it's 1,000 subscribers, which I'm actually growing faster than I have in a long time, because people are lovely in Team Human and other places and are trying to help out small creators not lose the tiny amount of income that they get from this. But I'm still only at about like 204, I think. So I'm shy 800 subscribers, and you need 4,000 hours of watch time, which in the last 12 months. In the last 12 months, I think I have 20,000 minutes of watch time, which turns into like 340-ish hours. So I'm only about 3,600 hours behind that, and so I have until February the 20th to get that many subs and that much watch time for the past year. So that did not help with avoiding stress, as you can probably imagine, and it was incredibly disheartening. I made a video. The video released earlier today was my kind of reasoned response to it, where I talked about economics and I talked about business management and things like that. And I actually used facts and, economic theory and stuff like that to say why this is such a poorly done move. And that was in response to one of the creators I look up to, Hank Green, putting out this statement that basically it was something to the effect of just because you're not being paid, it doesn't mean the content you create doesn't have value or you are not valuable. And to me, that sounded like he was trying to placate his audience and kind of take a bullet for YouTube. And since then, I've seen a lot of different people comment on it. Philip DeFranco has commented on it. Boogie2988 has commented on it. I've seen somebody else that's not even involved in YouTube talking about it. And what I'm getting almost universally from big YouTubers whom this doesn't directly affect and doesn't affect in a negative way at all. In fact, this move generally is going to help big creators by hurting small creators. So almost universally, with a few rare exceptions, almost universally, big creators have been welcome to YouTube. YouTube screws you over all the time. Don't trust them for money. And diversify, or something along that lines of you shouldn't rely on YouTube. They're horrible. And the basic idea of suck it up. This is how it works. Well, welcome to the real world. And to me, first of all, it's an incredibly insulting approach to go for. Whether or not it's true. Because a lot of you, like, I think Philip DeFranco mentioned this. I think Boogie mentioned it as well. He's like, this is what we went through last year when the adpocalypse hit, where we saw all of our money, go away. And the big difference being the people that weren't affected by it as much, the small creators, got outraged for the big creators that were getting hurt by this and did everything that we could to try to help them out. You know, whether that was subscribing to Patreons. Like, we rallied for the big creators when they got hit hard. When it was the small creators, a significantly larger number of people, the big creators are basically saying, fuck you. This is what I had to go through last year. You know, just suck it up. And I'm surprised with how universal it was. I was, again, Hank surprised me immensely, because Hank and John have always been very creator focused, and they, if these rules had been in place when John and Hank started making YouTube videos, the Vlog Brothers wouldn't exist. And I think Hank even touched on that subject during his. He did an impromptu like Google Hangout live stream thing. And so he even touched on that and saying, yeah, if this had been, you know, if this had been a thing, then we, you know, it never, Vlog Brothers would have never happened. And most of the big YouTubers that have been doing this for a long time, if these rules had been in place, they would not exist. Because they started off small, and then when YouTube started letting them monetize and stuff like that, they were able to get small amounts of money that turned into larger profits and things like that, and they were able to reinvest and all that. And so to have them now do this about face of, well, fucking sucks to be you, it really seems like a slap in the face, especially when all of us small creators really rallied behind the big creators, because when Adpocalypse and everything happened, we rallied behind the big creators, and we did everything we could to try and help them out. And now that the tables are turned and it's us that are getting screwed over, big creators like, oh, sucks to be you. It doesn't affect me. It helps me. Because it does. A large number of the people that this is intended to target are people that steal video content and stuff like that. They're gonna, you know, their channels are gonna get demonetized, and there's gonna be no financial incentive for them to steal short form content anymore. And that's simply going to make the big channels more money, because they don't have to worry about competing with their own material. That's being stolen by other channels, that once you shut them down, another one just pops up, you know, a couple days later. And so for big creators, this is a good thing. They get to get more money. They get more exposure. It also limits the amount of competition that they have. There will be less competition on there. The video I made earlier today goes into the actual economics of it, and talks about how this will do nothing but make the situation on YouTube worse, because it reduces competition and creates more of an oligopoly type competitive market and all this stuff. So anyway, yeah, I wanted to kind of put that out there, that I'm really surprised that the big YouTubers I was expecting to kind of go to bat for little YouTubers are just sitting there going, fucking sucks to be you. Maybe you shouldn't have counted on YouTube. Like Philip DeFranco and Boogie Tonight at 8 are probably the two biggest ones that I'm like, really? Really? This is your solution? Is, well, you know, YouTube has a problem with stealing content, which is a true statement. And Philip DeFranco even mentioned, yeah, when they asked me about this a week ago, so Phil's known for a week that small creators are going to get fucked in the ass. And his response was, well, I understand what you're going for, but there's going to be a lot of backlash for this, and there's nothing you can do about that. But he agrees that this is the best thing to do, because, again, it helps him. And that's the thing that is most troubling of all, is that all of these people that I have assumed and thought of as very altruistic and very creator focused, now that the cards are on the table, have done a complete 180, and are like, no, this helps me while it's hurting you guys. I don't care. it helps me. That's what I care about. And this is something I've been complaining about for a long time, and they're finally fixing it. Well, no, they're not fixing it. They're changing what's going to be stolen and how it's going to be stolen. This isn't going to stop YouTube piracy, just going to change how it works. And this isn't going to stop the other things that it's supposed to stop. Like YouTube said that they don't want ads running on stuff that shouldn't be. The channels that are doing the stuff that have gotten these adpocalypses started meet the criteria for this new partner program. All of them. The crazy kid channels that did the Adpocalypse 3.0, as I think what they're calling it, are large enough that they qualify for the new partner program. Or at least there are quite a few of them that do. So this doesn't even fix the problem that they claim they're attempting to fix. And while doing this, they are screwing up the economic competitiveness of the entire YouTube market to the point where, it's a bad idea. If you want the whole story, watch the other video. It's an hour long, but it goes into economic theory and all that stuff. So anyway, what does this mean for this channel? To be blunt, if I get demonetized, I don't know if I'm going to continue creating YouTube content. I really don't. If I lose my partner status, because it's not so much the money that I'm not making off this channel, because I haven't even hit the threshold to get my first payout. So it's not like I'm making a lot of money off my YouTube videos. It's the fact that without monetization on my channel, there's a very good chance that it's going to be significantly harder to get people to see my content. There will be additional barriers created for me to be able to grow my audience. And I'm not sure I want to work that much harder for a payoff that may never happen, because as soon as I get to the point where I do meet these new standards, they may move them again. Just because, again, this isn't going to work. I have seen similar measures taken in other business ventures where they're like, this is going to fix it so we don't have to do it. It doesn't work that way. There is not a new rules change does not stop theft. It never has. The way that you stop theft is through human intervention. And that's how it's always been. If you talk to any loss prevention expert in the world, they'll tell you that theft is not stopped by policy changes. It's stopped by changing the actions and forcing people to be involved. You can put all the cameras in the world you want. It's actually not going to stop theft. Theft is stopped by employees approaching customers, greeting every single customer, things like that. And that's what this is. This is them putting more security cameras in and claiming that will prevent theft, or shrink is what they call it in retail. And it's not going to happen. This is not the way to do it. And the fact that YouTube has decided this is the way to do it really casts, in my book, a very large shadow of doubt on their competency of their management staff, because this is just so riddled with problems. It's crazy. So anyway, as far as this channel goes, if I lose my partner status, I may just stop uploading things to YouTube. When you compare what YouTube is doing to what its competitors are doing in video markets in general, things like, if you look at what YouTube is doing instead of what Twitch is doing, Twitch has what's called a proactive management style, as opposed to YouTube, which is doing what's called a reactive management style. Reactive management is they wait for a problem to occur and then they try to fix it after it's already happened. Or they wait for something good to occur and then they try to figure out how it happened after the fact and hope that it happens again. Proactive or anticipatory is what I called it before. Proactive management is anticipating, which is why I called it anticipatory, anticipating potential problems by looking at what you have and looking at the possible ways it could be misused and coming up with contingency plans if it is misused in that way. Or figuring out what good behavior you want to encourage customers to do and come up with plans that incentivize that good behavior. That's called proactive or anticipatory management. That is a sustainable business model. Reactive management is not a sustainable business model. So when you look at Twitch, they are very proactive. They are continuing to innovate ever since Amazon bought them. They're continuing to innovate with things like Amazon Prime giving free subs on Twitch. That was not a feature that anyone asked for. That was not a feature that anyone even thought about, and didn't technically do anything other than enhance how attractive Amazon Prime is, which Amazon Prime is already a remarkably good deal for what it's worth, because it costs, you pay for it on a yearly basis, but it costs less than a Netflix subscription. And you get access to movies and free 2-day shipping and I mean just crap tons of stuff. So they didn't actually have to add anything more to it. It was already a great value, and they did. When you look at other things that Twitch is doing, they started the affiliate program. They're lowering the barrier to entry so that there can be more competition in the market. In economics, the more competition in the market, the more pro-consumer the market is, the better it is for the consumer, because competition breeds quality, and competition breeds weeds out the bad products in general. So when you look at, you know, what Twitch is doing versus what YouTube is doing, YouTube is increasing the barrier to entry, which in turn changes the competitiveness in their market much more and shifts it much more towards a monopoly, oligopoly style environment, whereas Twitch is lowering the barrier to entry, which brings it much more to the perfect competition side of the spectrum of economic competition, and a competitive market. So when you compare the two, like Twitch looks like, and based on their actions, is, you know, looking to help streamers and helping that, while YouTube is doing the exact opposite. Looking to help small streamers and trying to grow their platform and everything. Well, YouTube is doing the exact opposite. They're doing everything they can to shrink their platform, to limit the ability for new creators to get started on the platform, to ensure that the people that are already there have less competition to worry about, so that they can make more money. And less competition generally also means a degradation in quality as well, because there's no economic incentive to increase quality if there's no competition. So yeah, when you compare those, Twitch is trying to help people like me, and YouTube is trying to stop people like me from creating content. Yeah, I'm the decision I've kind of made is I'm not going into the night quietly. I am going to be making as many videos as I can. Again, because of what happened to me yesterday and everything else that's going on in my life, I am incredibly sick. And I physically do not have the ability to make tons of videos and edit them and all these other things. I physically cannot do that. I will kill myself. But I am going to do everything I can to do videos like this, where I try and explain complex subjects, give you guys updates on my life, stuff like that. And I'm going to be asking for subscribers. I'm going to be asking for likes and comments and all those things that, you know, the big YouTubers do that annoy the hell out of you. I got to do that. I've got a month to get 800 subscribers, which is not a crazy thing to do. And I've got a month to get 3,500 hours of views, which again is not a crazy thing to do. If I got 800 subscribers and each one of them watched 2, maybe 3 of my D&D episodes, doesn't matter what campaign you're watching. It could be Kingdom of the Chaos Isles. It could be Tyranny of Dragons. It could be my new campaign that I'm doing. All they would need is 2 to 3 of those episodes, each one of the 800 new subscribers doing that, and I would qualify for the program. Those are not impossible numbers to hit. But in order to do that, I need to be, I can't be the only person trying to get my channel noticed. It's become obvious that the big YouTubers are not going to help. They don't care. And that's the most shocking thing at all. But to be blunt, I'm not going to worry about that right now. What I am going to worry about is I have a few fans that watch everything that I put out, or close to everything that I put out. And I have other people that will watch when, something seems interesting. I need all you guys to actively start sharing my content. Like, actually saying, hey, can you please subscribe to this guy? He's going to get demonetized. He's going to get kicked out of the partner program unless he gets subscribers. Share it on Facebook, share it on YouTube, wherever you have to. Share it on Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, wherever you want. Because to be blunt, I can't do this alone. I am 3 classes away from a degree in marketing management. I understand marketing. I could create a brilliant marketing strategy that would get me the stuff that I need. I am simply incapable of doing it because of my health right now. So I'm asking everyone that cares about me, everyone that watches my videos and things like this, to spread the word that I need subscribers and I need view time. I hate to focus so much on analytics and stuff like that, because my career thus far has been about creating quality content and enhancing conversations and putting information out there, and that simply isn't going to work anymore. At least for the next month. The only thing I can focus on is putting out long form content and trying to get as many eyes on it as physically possible, while also begging and pleading for people to subscribe. To those of you that are new to the channel, that are just sort of watching, thank you very much. I sincerely do appreciate it, but we've got a long way to go if I'm not going to lose my partner status. And like I said, I haven't made the decision yet, 100%. But my feeling right now is that if I lose partner status, there really isn't a whole lot of point for me in me continuing on YouTube, because the barrier to entry will have been raised so high that it's just not worth it. And I will probably switch to a different platform. Maybe I'll start streaming on Twitch more often, or I don't know. But yeah, I just don't see YouTube being a viable option if I can't get this push through and keep my partner status. Which again, I've been a partner for, like I said, over 3 years. This is, I think I counted it, this is my 704th video I've made for YouTube. So it's not like I'm lazy or I'm not creating enough content or anything like that. I don't get the eyes that other people do for a number of reasons. More recently, all my videos have been getting demonetized because I'll say things like, I can tell you right now, if I want to get a video demonetized, all I have to do is say 3 words: medication or meds, psychiatrist, and therapist. Those 3 words will get everything demonetized for normally about 3 to 4 days, and then they magically get remonetized. But at that point, they're old videos, and they won't show up in people's feeds. They won't show up in sub boxes and stuff like that. It's the demonetization prevents it from being seen and prevents it from showing up in searches and recommended videos and stuff like that. So I have been, hit remarkably hard by all this stuff because I talk about mental health issues and all this other stuff. And so anyway, that's my plan. I'm going to try and put out as much content as I can. Every single one of these, I'm going to say, please, please, please subscribe to the channel if you are not currently subscribed, because I have to get more subscribers. Even if you never watch another thing that I watch or that I create, I need the physical numbers, because that's what YouTube is forcing me to do. And then the other thing I'm going to ask you to do is share my content as much as physically possible. Ask people to subscribe to my channel. Like I said, even if it's just a pity subscription, ask people to subscribe to my channel, turn on my channel, and watch a couple episodes of my my D&D games or stuff like that. Put them on in the background while you're working or something. They are entertaining. I do funny voices. Weird things happen. They're great. They're a lot of fun. I take great pride in what I do. Yeah, that's the plan right now. It may change in the next month. I don't know. A lot of it depends on how stuff goes. But I am not giving up on this. I am going to fight. And despite the fact that a lot of the people that we fought for before are now kind of abandoning us, I'm not going to let that get me down. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to see what happens. So, again, if you're still watching this, thank you very, very much. View time is more important than views, so please watch to the end. And please, again, share with everybody you possibly can. Ask people, pull favors, whatever. 800 is not a massive amount. When you look at the millions of subscribers and the tens of thousands of subscribers that these big channels get on a daily basis, getting 800 subs in a month is actually not an exorbitant amount, nor is 4,000 hours. I just need people to watch it. And I'm going to do my best to make it as interesting as physically possible and as quality as physically possible. So anyway, that's all for me. I will see you guys later, all right? Bye-bye.